Hey guys, welcome back. Today we are going to discuss about the transactional control language or TCL. TCL is a set of SQL statements that are used to control the transactional processes in database. What do we mean by transactional process? A transaction is a sequence of SQL statements that Oracle treated as a single unit. So if we write a query to delete one particular record from the table, that becomes one transactional process into our database. So there are three commands, namely rollback, SAVEPOINT, and commit are considered as transactional control commands. Let's look at them one by one. So whenever we make the changes into our database table using insert, update, or delete operations, these changes are temporary into our database table and they can be undo at any given point in time. To make these changes permanent into our database tables, we must issue a commit command. Once we issue the commit command, those changes will take place into our database permanently and they cannot be rolled back. Let's look at one example to understand more about this commit command. So here we are into our SQL developer. Let's look at the data we have into our employee table. So if we look at here, we have total 3 records in our employee table. Let's delete one record with the employee name Ward. So delete from employee where employee name is equal to Ward. So we have deleted one row from employee table. Now let's look at the data. So we have left with only 2 records into our employee table. But please remember, whatever the record we have deleted is not permanently deleted from our database. And this can be undo change. So to make this change permanent, we must issue a commit command after deleting the record from our table. So let's issue the commit command. So commit is completed. Once commit is completed, the transaction cannot be rolled back and it has been taken place permanently into our database. Now let's look at another TCL command, which is rollback. So rollback is used to roll back the current transaction and causes all the updates made by the current transaction to be discarded. So whatever the transaction we have made, whether it is delete, update or insert, we can roll that transaction back to their previous state using rollback. Let's look at one example to understand more about the rollback command. So here we are into our SQL developer. Let's look at the data into our employee table. So we have total 2 records into our table with the name Smith and Lillian. Let's delete one record from our employee table with the name Smith. So delete from employee where employee name is equal to Smith. So let's run this query. So one row has been deleted from our employee table. Now let's look at the data into our employee table. So we have left with only one record. Now let's run the rollback command and see if that record comes back to our employee table, meaning our employee table reaches to its previous state where it had 2 records. So rollback has been completed. Now let's look at the data into our employee table. The data which we have deleted with the name Smith is still available into our table. So please remember, we can roll back the current transaction using rollback command until the commit is not issued on the table. Now we have another TCL command, which is SAVEPOINT. So SAVEPOINT establishes a special mark inside a current transaction. Okay, so all the commands that are executed after establishing the SAVEPOINT can be rolled back to the point what it was at the time of creating the SAVEPOINT. In short, in order to roll back the transaction up to a certain point, we use SAVEPOINTs. Okay, let's do some practical examples to understand more about SAVEPOINT operation. Let's look at the data into our employee table. We have 2 records. Let us create one SAVEPOINT with the name D1. So SAVEPOINT has been created. Now let's insert one record with an employee name Ward. So one record has been inserted. Let's create another SAVEPOINT with the name D2. Let's run this also. So another SAVEPOINT called D2 has been created. Now let's insert one more record with the name Johns, right? So this record has also been inserted. So after inserting these 2 records, let's look at the data available into our employee table. So now we have 4 records into our table. Now let's try to roll back the transaction till save point D2. So we will simply write roll back to D2, which is name of the save point we have created, right? So let's select it and run this. So rollback has been completed. Now let's look at the data into our employee table. You will see the last insert statement with the name John's has been rolled back and it is no more available into our employee table. It is possible to roll back our current transaction up to a certain point using save points. Okay, now let's run the commit to make the changes permanent into our database. So commit has been completed and we have three records into our table. Now let's try to roll back the transaction to the save point D1 and see if this allows us after performing the commit operation into our table. Okay, let's write a query roll back to the save point name, which is D1, right? So if you look at here, we have got an error that save point D1 never establishes in this session or is invalid. Meaning, once we issued the commit command, all the save points has been wiped off and the changes into our database has been made permanently. I hope you would have understand the transaction control language commands and the use of it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.